Okay. So one of the forms of speech that we talk about is symbolic speech, and this is one of the really most divisive issues that we face right now. Is what's considered symbolic speech. Some kids have worn to the high school a little black armband with a peace signal protesting the Vietnam War. They got in all sorts of trouble for that. We've had some people burn the American flag, like in Texas versus Johnson. People say that's really negative. We have people as recently as like Colin Kaepernick kneeling during the national anthem, right? That's considered speech. It's called symbolic speech, and when that's united with political speech, that becomes very powerful. It becomes protected by the government as well. Next, we have the freedom of assembly, the right of the people to gather peacefully and to petition the government. So protests are just fine, right? We have no problem with protests as long as it is peaceful, right? So once we start burning targets to the ground, that's not freedom of assembly. But as long as we have our proper permits, we're doing all that we're supposed to, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Next, we have obscenity and pornography, right? What's considered pornography? What's considered obscenity? What's considered art, right? There was a test called the SLAPS test, and that was in Miller. That basically said anything that pornography is anything that does not have serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific qualities to it. And so these pornographers, they're smart, right? A lot of their pornography got banned. So what they would do is they would start introducing like historical characters, like they'd have George Washington and Martha Washington have sex with each other, and that's how they would make their porno videos, right? And but that so eventually we're at the point of where obscenity is now very loose. Not very many cases are tried for porno as porn anymore. Porn, for the most part, is widely legal, other than maybe snuff films and child pornography. Child pornography is not that allowed, obviously. The Miller test says that basically everything has to be based on community local standards, right? So is nude dancing okay in Gunnison, Utah? Probably not, because of local standards. The local government could ban it because of local standards. However, Salt Lake City, right? The standards are a little bit different, right? Or let's say Chicago, or you probably have to have those strip clubs are probably going to be okay. You have to grant them a license. Next, we have fighting words. Here's the difference right here. So if I say, oh man, my student, let's say Romeo. Let's say Romeo. You better be watching this, Romeo. I say, I want to punch Romeo in the face. Okay, not a real cool thing to say on my part. It's not something I should be doing or saying, but those aren't exactly fighting words. Now, if I got so he lives there on the Nevada Utah border, and I travel up to where he's living, and I get right in his face and say, Romeo, I'm gonna punch you in your freaking face, man. Now that would be fighting words, right? Because that incites violence. Next, we have political correctness, right? The idea that language shapes behavior and therefore should be regulated to control its social effects. So an example of this is when I grew up, I used a word. Everybody used this word. It was just very common. We all used the word fag. Everybody said that word when I was growing up. And it's not something I'm proud of now, obviously, but it is something that we did say quite often. And that something is through political correctness is probably a word that you don't hear very much anymore. I had a friend say just a couple days ago, I haven't heard that word for years. So political correctness is the idea that we have to change our language in order to change the way we think. That's kind of backwards of what Foucault would say, but hey, it's still a cool idea. Next, we have prior restraint. Can we censor something before it is said? That's a really tough question, right? We're getting into 1984 George Orwell stuff. Then we have libel. That is the written defamation of a character. Can I write something really mean and nasty about someone? Let's just say this. It is very hard for a political figure to win a libel or a slander suit. Okay, slander is the spoken defamation of a character. That means like a really nasty, naughty word, right? Or not naughty phrase about them, right? Like one of the famous ones was Jerry Falwell someone claimed that he sleeps with his mother. They wrote a cartoon that says of him sleeping with his mother, right? And even that he did not win, right? So libel and slander are very hard to win if they're public figures. Probably a lot easier to win if you're you or me, right? Let's say let's say I'm up for a promotion, and Ben calls up and says, "Hey, Scott's a jerk. He says bad things about me." That would be if it's a lie, if it's not true, then that would be slander. Okay, so here we have the right to bear arms. We already talked about how it's kind of an individual rights in opposition, and there's some for and against right here, and this is something you might want to know and read up on your own time. But we already covered this right at the start of this class, so I don't feel like we need to cover it a whole lot right now. What are the rights of a criminal defendants? Due process of law. That means if I'm going to lose my life, my liberty, or my property, I have to have due process of law. That means I'm going to have a fair and reasonable trial process. So one of the things that the Black Lives Matter is saying right now is that black people cannot get a fair trial, right? Because they get tried in these counties where all white people get put on the juries. There's usually one or two people on the voir dire, on the jury pool, and they get excluded by the prosecutor right away. So, hey, we can't get a fair trial. So therefore, we're not getting due process of law. Now, some of you say, well, no, that's not true. Everybody has due process of law. The only reason why you don't have more black people on the jurors in the jury trial, in the jury pool, is because not enough people are registered to vote. Not enough black people are registered to vote. So, there's always two sides to a story. We should kind of weigh which one we agree with and why. Criminal rights of the Constitution, that's the Fourth Amendment. The Fourth Amendment is really important. That means that we are protected from illegal or unreasonable search and seizure, right? So we have what's called the exclusionary rule. That is a rule that by the Supreme Court that evidence seized illegally may not be used to obtain a conviction. So let's say I am selling, I'm selling drugs at my home, and the cops know it. Everyone knows it. The cops know it, but they don't get a warrant, and they just burst in through my door, and they don't find any drugs. They don't find any drugs, but they do find a dead body in the closet. The rival gang member, let's say, they find that body. That body is inadmissible in court. They cannot try me for murder because of the way they entered the room, the door, without having a warrant. If you don't have a warrant, anything you find in that search is excluded. That's called the fruit of the poisonous tree doctrine. If it comes from a poisonous search, it is poisonous fruit, and it does not count. The Fifth Amendment talks about self-incrimination, double jeopardy, right? Double jeopardy. If anybody likes the game show Jeopardy, it's more than just the second round of Jeopardy. It's actually being tried for the same crime twice. You also do not have to incriminate yourself. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say or do can be used against you in the court of law. The Miranda rights. But you don't have to say anything about it. You can go to trial and you can refuse to say a single word. Your judge, or your lawyer can talk the whole time, and you don't have to testify. Next, we have the Sixth Amendment, which is a trial by jury in criminal cases, a right to speedy trial, which is impossible now. There's no such thing as a speedy trial anymore. And you have the right to counsel. That was Gideon versus Wainwright. If you get hit with a punishment, you get a lawyer. Okay, we provide it for you. Eighth Amendment is the prohibition of excessive bail, and of course, cruel and unusual punishment. We cannot have cruel and unusual punishment. I don't know necessarily what cruel and unusual punishment is, because we are the only Western country in the world that still executes people criminally, like publicly. So I'm not entirely sure what cruel and unusual classifies as, but apparently, according to the Supreme Court, we're not doing it yet. So the right to privacy. The right to privacy is something that was created in the Constitution by interpreting a few other amendments, okay? And that's reproductive rights, that's gay rights, that's the right to die, okay? All of those are very important. So what is the right to privacy? What constitutes privacy? Is privacy a fundamental right? Or should we be allowed to place limits on private activity, right? We have abortion because we believe that it's a woman's right to privacy, the right to her own body, right? That's where that comes from. Constitutional sources, like I said, there's the first, third, fourth, ninth, and 14th. Those are all rights to privacy. Okay, the last slide here. In the United States, we are accustomed to thinking about citizenship as a status that confers on us certain rights. Obligation without rights is an authoritarian dictatorship. rights with an obligation leads to a state of nature, anarchy. So we have to have a little bit of both. We have to have obligations. We have to vote. We have to go out and protest. We have to use our speech. We have to use our freedom of religion. These are all things that we have to use in order for it to be a true democratic state, right? Um, so the democracy requires that we have rights and liberties, but we also have obligations. And as long as, and one of the problems that I think is existing in our modern democracy is that we have a lot of people who are wanting a lot of rights and liberties, but aren't really handling a lot of obligations. They aren't going out and doing enough. They're not becoming an active member of the democracy. Okay, that's it for today's class. We will go ahead and let you go. If you need to set up a time to talk to me, please contact me. Do not hesitate to contact me. I'd like to hear from you. I will send out a group message if enough people have the exact same question. I'll send out a group message for everyone. But remember, it's chapters 1 through 4 on Tuesday. Okay, you can start taking the test at 8 o'clock. There's no need to come to class. You can wake up at 7:59, power on your computer, open up your book, open up your notes, and start taking it. Okay. So if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me between now and Tuesday. I will be available. I promise. One thing I pride myself on is being available to my students. So please do not hesitate to contact me. Okay. If for some reason I have not seen an email that you have sent me, I believe I've responded to everybody's email that required an answer, but if for some reason I missed that, send me a follow-up email and say, hey, Scott, you missed this email, okay? All right, thanks, guys. Have a good one.